there was a question whether we had the consensus, both national and international, to go into Gaza and wipe them out. And the answer was, we didn't have it. After October 7th, that changed. We had that consensus, at least for a while, until the Western leaders buckled. But that doesn't change our understanding that we have to get rid of Hamas.
Did you know about the terror tunnels before October the 7th? Were you aware that they were building them?
Yes, of course. We knew. We didn't know the full extent because it's underground and there are limited ways. I think Israel has very good intelligence, but intelligence is collection, and that is always limited. And then you have to have your assessments. That is also limited. Yes, did we know about underground tunnels? Of course, yeah, we knew it. Yeah.
Prime Minister, you've just used the words, the Western leaders buckled, and I'm assuming what you're referring to is Keir Starmer's statement on the 25th of July, where he said that the UK would recognise a Palestinian state. What is your response to that? And do you think that is just going to essentially encourage Hamas to continue their resistance?
Yeah, of course it does. I mean, look, they commit the greatest savagery against Jews since the Holocaust. And the Prime Minister of Britain says, we'll reward you with a de facto state, which is what? Which is committed openly to repeating the October 7th massacre over and over and over again. And they say, well, no, look, we recognize Israel's right to defend itself. You know, they always add that. You hear that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
of
okay.
Course.
Well, they recognize Israel's right to defend itself as long as Israel doesn't exercise that right. So now let's imagine what would be the response of Britain if, well, in your case, about 15,000 people or 10,000 people would be butchered in one day, and you'd have, I don't know, 2,500 hostages taken. You know, would you say, oh, well, we should give our attackers a state right next to London? Of course not. What would the Americans say if you had 50,000 Americans butchered, okay, and thousands of Americans taken hostage? Obviously, they'd say, no, we're not going to give them a state, sort of not in New Jersey, but right in Manhattan, you know. That's ridiculous. So what the standard that is being applied is not merely wrong, it's just downright dangerous because you're really rewarding these monstrous terrorists with the greatest prize, and that's because of weakness. It's weakness. It's weakness in the face of distorted media, of packed social networks, packed with bots, B-O-U-G-H-T, B-O-T-S, bots. But it's also these radical minorities which are protesting there. And by the way, you should ask Keir Starmer. Here's a suggestion. Ask him, okay? What do these protesters say about Britain? I know what they say about Israel. Israel has to be destroyed from the river to the sea, you know. You think this is a massive continent. It's all of 30, 40 miles, okay? Mm-hmm. But what do they say about Britain? Well, Britain should go down. What do they say about the UK? And the same for the protesters in the US. They burn Israeli flags, they burn American flags, and they burn the UK flag. So they're basically a hostile minority supporting monstrosities. And I think that it's shameful the way that the Western leaders in Britain, in France, in Canada, in New Zealand, the way they buckle under. They don't have, you know, Europe has gone through the destruction of the Jews. 80 years later, that's what they have to say. They attack the Jewish state and they give a prize for those who would destroy the one and only Jewish state. Shameful.
All right, people, it's trivia time. Financial trivia, to be exact. Do you know what retirement asset grew the most in the first 6 months of President Trump's second term? Many of you probably guessed the stock market was the best, since what's backing the most retirement accounts in America today is that. But from January the 21st through July 21st, the Dow Jones grew less than 1%. What about Bitcoin? President Trump loves Bitcoin, so it must have performed well, right? Well, it did. It grew nearly 15%, an impressive 6-month investment. But it's not the number one. The heavyweight champion was, wait for it, gold and silver. Gold and silver are considered to be safe haven investments, so many of you will be surprised to learn they both grew by a whopping 25% in President Trump's first 6 months. 25% in 6 months. Not bad for safe haven investments. Our partners, Augusta Precious Metals, specializes in helping Americans move wealth and retirement into self-directed IRAs backed by physical precious metals like gold and silver. They are consistently scored as the most trusted gold IRA company by major financial publications, and they enjoy an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. In a world where governments print money and rack up debt like it's going out of fashion, I like assets you can hold in your hand. That's why I've always taken steps to secure my family's future with gold. If you have over $100,000 in your current IRA, 401k or other retirement account, visit triggergold.com, that's triggergold.com, to learn how Augusta Precious Metals can become your lifelong self-directed IRA partner.